the thing that's interesting with Bitcoin now, as opposed to the big difference that I see, is that you have a lot more institutional investors getting involved. You got companies like Square investing 50 million, into Bitcoin. You've got PayPal, launching new services, to basically sell cryptocurrency. You just have a lot of hedge funds and just more people are taking notice. There's just so much more money going into it that there's something here.
Welcome to the Viral by Design podcast with Dave Rotherow, where we get inside the minds of today's leading viral marketers as they reveal the exact strategies they use to build brands, products, and campaigns that are magnetic to customers, spread like wildfire, and seize the attention of millions. This is Viral by Design.
So welcome to another episode of Viral by Design. I'm very excited today to be joined by the wealth hacker, Jeff Rose. Jeff is the founder of GoodFinancialSense.com. He's listed as one of the top 10 money blogs on the web. He's also author of Soldier of Finance, which combines 9 years of service in the Army National Guard with his expertise as a certified financial planner. He's written for Fobres, CNBC, Entrepreneur, has been featured in USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Reuters, and Fox Business. He's here to teach you the secrets to mastering your money game and building real wealth. So Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on here.
So, hey, you spent 9 years serving in the military, including 16 months deployment to Iraq. What elements of your military life do you think have helped kind of master the wealth game for you personally?
Well, not to be too cliche, but one of the things I hear about joining the military is the discipline that you get. I was definitely very undisciplined prior to me joining the military. I was a college dropout. I was struggling in debt. Definitely didn't have any discipline to not buy things that I didn't need or couldn't afford. And that was really just the way that I lived. And a lot of that was my upbringing. Both my parents, they had divorced when I was young. They didn't have any really good financial skills or financial education. And both of them filed bankruptcy. They were not together. So this is actually quite remarkable. But they filed bankruptcy twice, each of them, independent of each other, which I think is pretty amazing. A lot of sarcasm in that comment. But discipline by far was one thing. But I think the other thing was really was grit. And I just had this tenacity, which I did not have prior to the military. And the tenacity just to push through any obstacle, any barrier, any time that I came across something that wasn't working out or didn't work out. I did not let that affect, who I thought about myself. I did not consider myself to be a failure. I was just, pick myself up, dust myself off, and then, all right, how am I going to pull this off? What do I need to do? What do I need to adjust? What do I need to pivot? And just kept pushing through. And that was definitely by far probably one of the greatest gifts that the military gave me.
So did you do any kind of financial planning or anything in the financial world before going into the military? And if not, I'm keen to understand what your journey was from leaving the military into doing what you now do.
Yeah, so technically I was a Army National Guard when I initially joined. So that meant that I just had to commit to doing 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks on the summer. And that was straight up joining because I didn't have any way to pay for school and I needed help. I needed financial assistance. So that's when I joined, and I was in college while I was still, getting my degree while I was still in the military. And then after graduation, I had started my career as a financial planner and was doing that for about two and a half years, and still serving, part-time in the military. And then about 2.5 years into my career is when our unit got activated. And that's when I ended up going from part-time weekend warrior to serving a 16, 17-month deployment over to Iraq. So took a sabbatical from my career to go serve in a combat zone, and then after, by the grace of God, returning home safely, still having to readjust back to civilian life. I then my old investment firm, they had taken care of all my clients while I was gone, and I had my job when I got back, and that's when I went back to my career, became a certified financial planner, and just really just got focused, and that's kind of what led me to where I am today.
That's awesome. So obviously, what you've done since that point, like aside from growing your own kind of financial planning business, you've amassed a huge following on social media, especially on YouTube. So could you kind of briefly describe what your model is, like how you kind of disseminate information online, and how you monetize that?
Yeah, so like that is really part of the journey. You mentioned the intro, the wealth hacker, and I didn't create that moniker until probably about 3 years ago. And when I started to reflect back on my own journey, just thinking about like, man, what did I do different? Than a lot of traditional financial planners or traditional 9 to 5ers. And looking back, I had started my career as a financial planner, was growing that, end up co-founding my own investment firm after my original brokerage firm was bought out. And then I started looking into different ways I could market my business. And that's when I discovered a blog, or what a blog was. Now, just to kind of give you some context here, this is going back to 2008, whenever I first was introduced to the concept of blogging and really had no idea what it was, how it worked. I didn't have any social media at that time. I remember being deployed to Iraq, and this is when Facebook was just becoming a thing. MySpace was still very much a thing. So I was really oblivious to it all. And then just read this article about blogging and thought, oh, so I can write this article or publish this piece of content, and potentially like hundreds of people could read it. It's out on the internet. And that I just got really, really excited about the potential and possibilities. So I began publishing blog posts, writing articles on my own, hitting publish. And, for about 6 months, I had like maybe, 5 people coming to my blog a day, if I was lucky. And 4 of those 5 were probably spam bots or something. But either way, like it really showed me just the potential reach, that was there. And then I ended up being contacted by CNBC, like I think it was almost like 6 months into it, maybe 9 months into it, which it really didn't lead to anything. But I just remember, because at that time I was living in Southern Illinois, small town. I just left my previous firm. So we had like this work share space, like some sort of like work, like we're sharing like office space. And it was just like, I was a nobody. But yet here I am publishing some video or some published content. Also started doing a few videos that were horrible, non-HD quality, didn't know anything about audio. I mean, it was like a webcam straight from like 2004. And yet, just because I was willing to put myself out there, I was contacted by a major media network, and they flew me out to New Jersey to meet with them, which I said didn't amount to anything. It all said and done, but it showed me that people can find me, and it's like, wow, like my brain just started spinning of all the potential. Keep in mind, I'm still not making any money, from the actual blog itself. And I then learned that, oh, you can actually make money from a blog. And then I put Google ads on the website. And I think about 9 months into me starting the website, I got my first Google AdSense check for $152. And I was on cloud 9. Like I was, yes, like I was ready to take on the world. And keep in mind, like at that time, my financial planning practice, I was making close to 6 figures at the time. I recall I was getting ready to cross, that fun point. So, making 6 figures a year, building my business here, and then the online biz is bringing in a whopping $152 a month, which I equated to about 16 cents an hour. How much time I was putting into it, but I just had this this feeling, just this hunch that I was onto something bigger. And so that was the blog, that's Good Financial Sense that you mentioned. It ended up also turning into a YouTube channel, eventually also becoming a podcast. And then fast forward, I think it was now 2 years ago, is when I had been a financial planner for my entire career, had formed my own wealth management firm, and then it got to the point where the online business had grown so much where it was making over 2x, almost 3x of what the brick and mortar business was doing. And I ended up selling the business. I was like, you know what? That business is a distraction to everything that I'm doing online right now. And that was it actually was, it was hard for me, even though like you look at the number, I'm a numbers guy, obviously. And I'm looking at the numbers and like, it doesn't make sense to keep this business, but yet like my identity was so, I mean, that was me. Like that was my major, that was an internship, that was my first and only job really, after graduating college. So it was really, really hard to let go. Interesting enough, but like when I finally did, it's like, oh, why did I wait so long? So yeah, right now the main focus is the website, the blog, the YouTube channel, the podcast, and just creating new opportunities all through all the social media channels and online stuff that I'm doing.
Well, that's huge, man. And it's a really great story. There's a few key sort of highlights in there which are really true towards. One of which is nothing really quite matches that first sale or that first check that you get online, right? It's like nothing's ever quite as good again. And also that idea of creating momentum and reaching a point of critical mass where you're doing something for so long and nothing ever quite comes of it, but the fact that you persist and the fact that you're building that kind of momentum, eventually it starts to snowball. So one thing that I've been asking pretty much everybody that I speak to in the last few weeks is, what could somebody who wants to find success in their life, in financially or in business, what's a habit that they could do regularly every single day, a small thing that they could implement that would amass that critical mass and provide that momentum for them towards a better life?
Yeah, I think, the one thing that I didn't really see at the time, but I think, when me looking back and you think of anybody for the most part that has had some sort of success, minor or major success, there was some consistency to what they did. Whether it was a morning routine, whether that was, just making a certain number of sales calls each day, setting up certain level of meetings or lunch meetings or coffee meetings or virtual meetings nowadays, each week. And looking back at, my success as a financial planner, going back in the day when cold calling was a thing, I was that annoying telemarketer that would interrupt your dinner to see if you had an investment strategy, that you were working on. And I would do that. I would make anywhere from, on a bad day, I'd make 100 dials. On a good day, I don't know if this is really a good day, but anywhere from like 300 to 400 phone calls, just working the numbers so I could finally have a live conversation with somebody. And just doing that day after day after day after day, eventually I started getting people to actually answer the phone and actually not hang up on me or cuss me out. And then they finally started agreeing to meet with me. And I think about with the website or even with the YouTube channel, the consistency was, I didn't know what I was doing as far as like writing an article. Like I just go, that sounds like a good idea. Let me just go ahead and write that and hit publish. And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And I did it again. And I started reading other blogs and other publications and started seeing like, oh, how are they crafting their articles, or looking at other YouTube creators, or how are they, scripting out their videos and what are they doing different? And, why is that video getting so much more traction over this one? Or why is that blog so much more successful? And just started doing the research and seeing, oh, okay, how I can improve and just make small improvements along the way. But, I think the underlying theme through all of that is consistency, just showing up every single day, doing something, even though if you don't know that if you're doing it 100% right, but you can't make any adjustments, you can't make any improvements unless you actually put it out there. And that was one of the things that I was never afraid to do. I mean, I'm still very hypercritical of myself, but I was still willing to put myself out there and learn after the fact.
That's huge, man. So segueing slightly away from like the publishing thing and into the actual advice that you provide, like the actual financial advice that you provide.
Yeah, so I read a really interesting statistic the other day, which is that 70% of Americans have got less than $1,000 saved. Now, obviously, the fun and games that we've been through this year has affected that in some way, shape, or form. So are these 70% of Americans doing something wrong, or is it that the system is rigged against them?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing right now, with the pandemic, as you mentioned, prior to this, many people did not see. I don't say they didn't see the importance of saving. Either way, their actions, making saving a priority as opposed to spending, buying things they didn't need, or even taking time to understanding, what a budget is. I definitely believe that the pandemic has really shown people, shown how many holes they had in their savings plan. And also with, prior to the pandemic, the side hustle, I feel, was looked at as something as, oh, like that's like the hip thing to do, like this is, oh, what's your side hustle? Kind of like this bragging rights, like flex type thing, where now during this pandemic, the side hustle has become almost a necessity, for those that were laid off, those that hours were cut, businesses were shut down. And where now it's like, what can you do? What options do you have, to provide for your family? And people that were able to identify that having a secondary source of income, or a second or third secondary source of income, that just has proved to be so vital, for just everything that's going on, and just helped with stress and anxiety, just wondering like when this thing is going to end, if it ever does. And so it definitely has shaped the way people approach their finances. I'm not sure if it's improved a lot just because of the job situation, unemployment, but nonetheless, I think people definitely have recognized that they need to do something different.
100%. I think a lot of people have woken up to, the fact that no matter how stable they think a stable job is, anything's prospect to change pretty fast and pretty sharp. So regards to how people could start investing if they are now in a position to, there's obviously a lot of different information going around right now, especially with Bitcoin hitting a new high, and there's all sorts of different shiny objects that people chase down. What's a realistic and reliable and sustainable and responsible way that people could actually get started investing? Is it something like crypto, or is it something a bit more traditional?
To me, like one of the most common things that I still see, which I still think it is amazing, because when I first started my career, many years ago, to actually invest in anything for the first time took a lot of work. You either had to go into a brick and mortar office, and you're walking in, you don't know anybody there, and maybe you don't have a lot of money, so you're like, I got no business walk into this investment firm. Or you could try to do it online, which even then you'd have to like fill out an application and get the paperwork and do all that stuff. And it was just very, very intimidating. Not to mention the fact that many of these firms did have minimums for anybody to get started. And fast forward to nowadays, there are so many different investment apps that allow you for traditional investing in stocks and ETFs and mutual funds. Or on the flip side, you can invest into cryptocurrency, you can invest into crowdfunding real estate, you can invest into wine. I'm just throwing that out there because there's some online platform I just came across where you can invest into wine. I'm not really a wine connoisseur, so I'm not really sure how that works. But point being is that it is so easy nowadays to invest, but there also lies a problem of almost too much information, like too many opportunities. So a lot of people do have paralysis by analysis. But the thing I want to encourage anybody that hasn't started yet, I personally don't think it matters if it is traditional investing, stocks or ETFs or cryptocurrency. I think the power is in picking something and just starting. And with a lot of these platforms, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, there is, Robinhood, which has got some negative press here lately here in the US. You can open an account with Robinhood with nothing, and they're not the only one. I mean, there's so many different online platforms that zero money to get started, and the first investment you can make for as little as $5. And like that is really, it's nothing. And okay, so now bigger question is like, does that really make a difference, in that person's life as far as helping them achieve financial freedom? If they're only going to invest $5 and only add $5 a month, no, absolutely not. But the whole point is that once you get the account open and you make your first investment, that's when now you have exposed yourself to so much more information, so much new experiences. And I'm a firm believer in the way that you learn is by doing. It's not by reading another book. It's not by listening to a podcast. It's not by watching a YouTube video. It's by actually doing whatever that action is. So opening your first investment account, making that first investment, and then learning, from that as far as, man, why are my investments going up? Why are they going down? Where are some other investments out there that, I could be making? That is where the power lies.
That's great advice, man. And, funny enough, the Robinhood app was my next question I was going to ask you, because obviously there's been a lot of controversy around that. I heard on the grapevine that there were crowds of people circling the Robinhood HQ and like throwing bricks through the windows and stuff. So they've obviously got themselves a bad rep. But my kind of from afar perception of that would be that people have probably gone in quite irresponsibly and traded with the high leverage that they can get with the app and made a bit of a mess of things. But I think what you're saying there parallels really nicely with what we were touching on earlier on, with just getting started, just doing something every single day and building that momentum, building that critical mass, and at least getting your skin in the game. So in terms of other investment opportunities, do you think, like in terms of crypto, what do you think of crypto right now? The fact that Bitcoin is back way on the up again, and I'm now once again regretting the fact that I didn't buy any when it went back down to almost zero.
Oh, crypto, like, it is something that even I'm still trying to fully understand. And for me, I had taken a break from YouTube for a number of years and didn't get back in. I think it was around 2017, the later part of 2017. So, I'm on YouTube, I'm making videos about investing and personal finance. And at that point in time, like, I didn't understand Bitcoin. I don't know if I understand that even more today than I did 3 years ago. But I was very much a skeptic. And the prime being reason for me was because every single person that commented on any of my videos, it was always, you need to buy cryptocurrency because Bitcoin's going to 100K. It's going to 100K. It's going to 100K. I mean, it was like every other comment. And I'm like, okay. The one thing that I have learned in my experience with investing is that when everybody is talking about something, then chances are you've already missed that opportunity.
Yeah.
You've already, it's too late. It's kind of like everybody wants to get in the market when it reaches all-time high. Like, no, like that's the thing. Like, you make money in the markets by buying low, not buying high. So initially I wrote it off, didn't make anything. I actually was like being snarky to everybody, kind of like laughing. And it kept going up, hit a high, and all of a sudden, boom, crashed down. I think it got down to about 3,000, if I recall. And it was that point in time where I'm like, you know what? Okay, just really practicing what I preach, and even to what I said earlier, the only way that I'm going to learn anything about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin is I've got to get in the game. I've got to get on the court, be willing to at least test it out. So I end up buying some Bitcoin. I think I bought $1,000 worth, and then ended up buying more and then buying more. Right now, I think I've got like $20,000 of Bitcoin, which, funny enough, like now that's worth like $65,000, $70,000. Like, it's not a huge part of my portfolio. I'm kicking myself for not buying more, as also like Tesla a couple years earlier this year. But either way, the thing that's interesting with Bitcoin now, as opposed to the big difference that I see, is that you have a lot more institutional investors getting involved. You got companies like Square investing 50 million, into Bitcoin. You've got PayPal launching new services, to basically sell cryptocurrency. You just have a lot of hedge funds and just more people are taking notice. There's just so much more money going into it that there's something here. I feel like everything a couple of years ago was pure speculation. There's still a lot of speculation. I just read an article the other day from some lead investor guy from Guggenheim, which is like a global investment firm. And, based on his research, he thinks that Bitcoin is, I'm going to read, actually, I have the article right here. Our fundamental work shows that Bitcoin should be worth about $400,000. That is a direct quote from Scott Minerd of Guggenheim Investments. So that's what he's saying. And then, and to me, when you read anything like that, I always have to remind myself, you got the people that are going to be like, all right, Bitcoin is going to 400,000. And like, Bitcoin's more like 50,000. It's like, okay, somewhere in the middle is most likely what the reality is.
Yeah.
Now, so I always kind of look at that. Is now the right time? Man, like I can't answer that question. Like, because if I thought it was the right time, I would have got in even more. I think it got to 20, it dropped back down to like 17 or 18. I'm like, I should probably get some more. I didn't, it's at 27, I think today, if I'm reading this right. It's like, so yeah, if you want to lease, that's a cool thing. You don't have to buy a Bitcoin, you don't have to have 27,000 to get in. That's the beauty of fractional shares and with all these different online platforms. So you can, buy $100 of Bitcoin just to say that you own some. And then from there, open a Coinbase account, BlockFi, whatever cryptocurrency platform that you want to experiment with. And then, that's how you're going to learn. So that's to me, that's how you learn. But I can't really speculate on how this thing is going to be. But I definitely feel like cryptocurrency is not going away. It's just wondering how it's going to look a year from now, 3 years from now.
Yeah, it certainly feels like it's here to stay in some way, shape, or form. And at the end of the day, it's an asset, right? People are buying it and people are selling it. I had my own kind of experiences with, well, first of all, I invested £1,000 into £1,000, in fact, sterling, which is like $1,200 at the time, into one of the peripheral, many, like seemingly thousands of coins that appeared back in 2018, which then soon, of course, turned out to be a pyramid scheme. But then also earlier on that year, I was chatting to a guy. I kind of saw the murmurings of what was happening, and I really wanted to get involved in Bitcoin. I mean, it was nowhere near the many thousands of dollars that it was by the end of the year. But I got some great advice off this guy, which is just to start buying, just to buy, steadily every single week, whatever you can afford, just keep buying and accruing. And if I'd have invested back then, it would have paid off significantly. But the thing that kind of stopped me getting in at the time was just a barrier to entry, particularly in the UK. I think it was something to do with the UK that it made it particularly difficult to actually buy Bitcoin. I can't remember exactly what, but regardless, kind of the point of this is that I'm always now looking up for what the similarities are, because there always seems to be, in terms of trends of new technologies or new financial opportunities, there always seems to be like a small burst or a flurry first, and then things die off for a while, and then things come back with a vengeance. Like if you think back to early iterations of pad work services before the iPad was a thing, and they all completely failed, flopped, and then eventually the iPad came out and really made it. And it kind of feels like that's on the way with crypto as well, right? That there's been like a bit of a splurge, but it's not really kind of hit any kind of critical mass. But there's obviously something there, and it's going to turn into something bigger, right?
Yeah, that's definitely how I'm feeling. I mean, you're seeing just all these new cryptocurrencies popping up left and right, and obviously they're not all going to make it. You feel like Bitcoin has by far, I mean, it's got the biggest momentum, but then again, doesn't mean that's kind of like MySpace. They had the momentum too. They were first to the market, and many people, there might be people listening to this podcast that never even heard of MySpace. So that's the one thing to remember. But right now, I think everything I have is in Bitcoin. Other than I do have a BlockFi account, which allows you to buy like a stable coin, which once again, I feel like I'm so green on this, but I want just to try that out as I'm staying safer investment cryptocurrency choice. I'm using air quotes right now for people that can't see me, because there is still a lot of risk, putting money into that. But even that, like buying a stable coin, basically it's called a cryptocurrency savings account, pays like 8.6% interest, which is like compared to right now in the US. I mean, most savings accounts are only paying 1%. So that is an option. Is no guarantees on any of that. So like you could open an account, your money could be gone tomorrow, as opposed to a traditional bank. But nonetheless, like if you're looking for something different and just for a little bit more risk.
That's cool, man. That's really interesting. I've not heard of that, so I'll have to check it out. So talking of trends and stuff, what are you, well, first of all, what are you focused on for 2021? What are you kind of working on, and what are you most excited about this year?
The thing I'm most excited about. So a lot of the ways that I make money predominantly from the website is through organic Google search, ranking for topics such as like investing topics, insurance topics, those various types of things, mortgage, like buying houses, a lot of anything that's related to personal finance and life decisions. And, that's one of the benefits of being a certified financial planner. It's allowed me to rank for some very competitive keywords and competing with a lot of the big websites out there. That being said, the trends in Google, people searching for example, how to save money on auto insurance aren't nearly what they were earlier this year or last year, because people aren't driving because people are working from home or quarantine. So where the traffic is still the same in some areas, the revenue has been soft just because of, the pandemic, everything that's going on. So with that, just trying to think about other ways that we can monetize, other things that we can do. And one of the things I'm really excited about is just recently, just kind of beta launched this idea of helping people set and achieve their goals. And maybe sounds a little bit cliche, but for me, like I thought I knew how to set goals and do my goals, but it wasn't until I joined this coaching program a number of years ago. I was in this coaching program for 5 years, and what I learned in that transformed the way that I run my business, that I do my business, the way that I approach life. And that coaching program was like $9,000 a year. Did that for 5 years. I found another online program that taught something similar, targeting entrepreneurs, and that course was like $3,000 to $3,500. And it's great, but like my thing was, what about all the people out there that want to do this, but they don't have the $3,000, $9,000 to go through it? So I've always just had this dream of mine to share this information for those that don't have access to that. So I just beta launched a thing. It's called the 10X Goals Accelerator, and I'm taking a beta class through it right now, just showing people how to not just set goals, but to set them and work towards them and understand how they're wired, understand like their personalities and what's keeping them from, or what has kept them from achieving goals over the years. And it's a lot of fun for me, because it's something I've always wanted to teach, and now I get to teach it. And so yeah, like that's just one of the things that I'm working on. I'm really excited about. The YouTube channel is another thing I'm also excited about. So a lot of challenges, but also a lot of things to be grateful for and be excited about.
That's awesome, man. So where can people find out about that particular program if they want to get involved? Is it your website?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like it's kind of hidden right now, just because I pre-launched it. So you can find it on my Teachable website, which I don't really promote at the moment. But the easiest way to find out is to follow me on social media or check out the YouTube channel, which is Wealth Hacker, or they can search for Jeff Rose on YouTube. Because once the course is done, once I go to the beta class, there will be videos where I'm talking about goal setting and some of the things I've learned, also some of the things I've helped a lot of my students go through. So the easiest way to find out about that is go to Wealth Hacker on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so they know when the next video is going to drop.
That's awesome. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this information. It's been really, really interesting. A few particularly interesting things which I picked up, which I'm going to be going checking out as well. We'll leave all the links, obviously, to what you mentioned, to your site, your YouTube, for people to go take a look at. There's an incredible wealth of opportunity there as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a fantastic 2021, my friend.
You too, man. Thanks so much.
This has been the Viral by Design podcast with Dave Rotherow. For more viral marketing secrets and to get detailed cliff notes on all episodes, visit viralbydesign.net.